towards creating or developing a carbon accounting arrangement on that property. In other words, he wants to be able to assess what carbon he has and what potential for carbon sequestration and carbon accounting that he's got. And he didn't really want to jump straight into the stratification and the registration process without having some idea of what he had in front of him and what the potential for upside in developing carbon was. So it was a matter then of determining what the land classifications were on this property and what the soil types were like, and do some test cores to see what the available, the available carbon was there and what the potential for upside was. So I was able to use Farmlab to do some basic imagery on the using gamma and NDVI to determine, and elevation, to determine how zonal the soil types were, and and how we might develop a classification of the land so that we could have the client make the decision on whether or not he was going to proceed with his carbon accounting program. So you can see there that that's they were the prescribed zones after assessing the gamma, the K gamma, and the elevation. And from that, we're able to have a bit of, you can see that there's quite distinctly zonal there, based pretty much on elevation and soil type. And we were able to determine where we might sample to get some representative results on the soil types and what the carbon measurements were going to be. So that's a bit of a background. Yep.
Yep. So yeah, we can see all these the plant sample points here. So how long did it take you to actually go out to the farm, and how did you prepare for this? Was that because this looks like quite a lot of samples. How many samples did you take on the farm?
12, yeah, there's 12 samples for 600 hectares, and the sample sites, the core went down to, we attempted to get down to a metre. We got to a metre in 10 of the 12 and down to 60 centimetres in the remaining 2.
So that's okay. So that was, it's basically like 3 or 4 samples per sample point here.
Yeah.
So you break down those samples, are you?
Yep, that's it.
Yep.
We went to 0 to 10, 10 to 30, 30 to 60, and 60 to 100.
Yes, so that's very interesting. So how long did it take you to get through all the 600 hectares?
It was normally it would have been nearly a day's work, but it went into the second day because yeah, there was feed up to the bonnet of the buggy and lots of rocks and tree stumps to dodge, so it did take us a bit of time.
And just a quick question. So I can see here a few marks where you actually excluded some areas. Is that a part of the project as well?
Well, it was obvious that some of the areas, particularly like the southern portion of that, and the yellow portions were low-lying and gorge type country, and the light blues tended to be shallow, rockier soil. Not always, but you'll notice that point down in the bottom lower there was one that we went in just to, down across, no, to the right, keep going. That one was, we just wanted to get a bit of a feel for what was in that area. And actually, that hole went down to a metre, so it wasn't too bad after all.
Oh.
Yep.
So you did all the planning here with the web interface, and then when you went out there, So what kind of, so you had a, what kind of material did you have to actually take the samples out?
Oh, you didn't get the photo, did you? We've got a buggy with an auger on the side of it that can auger down to 1 metre. We took we extracted a sample for every 10 centimetres and bulked them to get to, like the 10 to 30. There were three takes that were bulked into one. So it wasn't an intact core. When we go to do the carbon baseline sampling, we will be using a push probe that brings up intact cores. But this is really just a preliminary, sampling and testing, just to give some indication of what the client has in front of him.
Very good. And did you at that point clearly determine what you're looking for in terms of what the sample tests are? Did you were already aware of what you exactly you will test for?
Yeah, we've
I mean,
sent this.
it's
We've sent
carbon,
this.
obviously.
Yeah,
But yeah.
carbon acidity and not conductivity, cation exchange,
Yep.
because the client knows that his soils are generally acidic, and that there's a fear that there might be some aluminium at not too far down, and we want to get a measure on that. And we're looking at that positively, because we think that that is going to provide some upside, because there won't be, if the soils are acidic, there's unlikely to be carbon at depth, and if there's no carbon at depth, that gives a potential to develop carbon in those areas. So
Yeah, right.
that's what we're trying to do, just get a bit of a feel for it. And then when we come back in, we'll do far more strategic sampling and testing.
Okay, so you use the Farmlab, the mobile app, to get to the soil sample points. Is that correct?
Yep,
Yep.
of course.
And so these points that we can see here right now, they are showing up in the app as well?
Yep, they did on the day. And we drove, when you've got when the positioning's working, you're able to drive to that point and come, very, very close to where you've designated the point will be, and then we can log it and take the sample.
Yeah, cool. Sam, can you are you able to share the mobile interface with us, or is that
absolutely.
Yep.
So what I'll do now, everyone, is we've got a bit of a recording. So what we were trying to do is get is to convey, I guess, what happens in the mobile app. What you've seen today with the website is what happens in the sort of planning phase. But as anyone who's gone out there and spent lots of time in the paddock knows, most of this comes down to the crunch time is when you're out there in the paddock and you're trying to navigate to a tiny little point on your phone and or on your GPS, and then take a bunch of samples, and then trying to deal with the sample bags and scan all the other bits and pieces there as well. So whilst I'm bringing that up, there is one other question I'll throw at you, Milton. So in this case, which do you want to talk about the lab, your choice of lab for this as well? So obviously you used one of our partner labs. Who were they, and why did you use them?
Well, we used APAL Lab in Adelaide. That's not necessarily the one that we use all of the time, but we tend to use it most of the time. It's a lab that will do custom tests for us. So we're able to pretty much determine which attributes we want, and they'll custom a test to do it. And in this case, yeah, they were able to do it for us.
Great, thanks, Milton. So what I'll do, I'll share my screen again, and we'll just have a bit. Florian, do you want to talk to
Yep.
what you're seeing here? So this is just dropping a pin and just a bit of how to, and I'll pause it as well if you want to stop at any point there too. And we can dive into this in more detail here as well.
So what you see now is basically yourself. This is the blue point, and you can now drop a pin. And it, like the best thing to do that certainly is when you see, we saw the web interface just recently, and so there are those random dropped planned points. They will appear here in the mobile app as well, and now you can actually drop a new point to these sample points. So they are actually matching the sample points are the planned sample points are matching the actual point that you're taking. So you can drop your pin here. Then now you see this is a sample that you would take. You would say, I take a sample from 0 to 10 centimeters. You generate the barcode. Now, Milton, with the barcode, you don't have to generate them. There's another way to actually create those barcodes. You take a bag where
absolutely.
you put
we just go to the scan button and scan the barcode on the sample bag with the iPad in the field.
Yep.
And away we go. And then if we've got up to four samples at a particular site, it's just a matter of press the plus button at the bottom and we generate another one at, say, 10 to 30, 30 to 60, 60 to 90, 60 to a metre. So, yeah, we can allocate up to 4 samples per site.
Or you can do more if you need.
Sure.
Yeah. No, that's correct. So the advantage is, as you mentioned before, you wanted to take 4 samples, or basically you took 1 sample, divided that into 4, and with this app, you can actually put them into 4 different bags. You just scan the barcodes that you put on every bag beforehand, and then you just scan the barcode and you know already which bag belongs to what size and depth, and you will then be able to later send out those bags. Now, this information that we see right here will then directly go to the lab, in this case APAL, and they will see all that information in their backend as well. So as soon as the samples, as the sample bags arrive, there you go. This is how you actually submit those samples. So you select the lab, you select the test that you are actually interested in, and then you submit it. And as soon as you press yes here, this sample will go directly to your chosen lab. In this case, it's Acme soil testing, but usually you use, in this case, you used APAL. And then once you send your bags to your chosen lab, they already have the barcodes and can match each of the labs, each of the samples to the barcode and provide the data directly into our application.
That's great. Thanks, Florian. So what we might do now is we'll just reshare and have a look at another project we did last year and how the samples, how they look submitted in what's going to be the new refactored version of Farmlab. So we're just undergoing an upgrade to focus on the more around the logistics and around what Milton's just described. So going out into the paddock, taking some samples and making sure you can account for those samples both in the paddock and after you've mailed them off, and then being able to come back to your dashboard here, have a look at the different status of your samples, see what's been submitted, what you're waiting for results on, and get a live update and a live feed. All very paperless, and the key thing here is that it doesn't have to be the same person that creates the plan as the same person that samples them. There's various ways you can use it. So we've got users that obviously like Milton that will create the plan and then go out and sample themselves. We've got other users here that will do the planning in the office, and then they'll have a separate sampler go out with the mobile app and take the samples that were pre-planned in the office. We've also got people that don't use any of the web software at all and purely use the mobile app there too. So a lot of smaller, a lot of home gardeners that come and use Farmlab, and farmers that are just interested in taking a couple of soil tests. This is a bit overkill. The mobile app's a free service, and you know, outside of the cost of a soil sample, you know, it's completely free. So there is a lot of sampling done without the use of the interface, but the interface does give a really good enterprise level tool to help manage your incoming samples, to help categorize each of your farms, and to help store all the data that you've got against those farms when it comes to soil as well. So I'll give you this. This is a bit of an overview. Can everyone see that? Foreign, is that on your screen at the moment?
I can see it, yeah.
Great. So I'll quickly give a bit of a run through just in the context of what Milton's just described. So this was actually another farm that an early farm we went out with Milton and took some samples across. I'm sure you recognise it, Milton. And what we've got here are a combination of sample points, and we've got the ability here to filter by sample point type. So we do give you the, if you've got previously geotagged sample points there, you can import them, and we'll go through a bit of a deep dive in another webinar at another time on how to do that. You can also see your sort of planned sample points here as well. These are the planned sample points that were generated using our auto sampling feature in Farmlab. They require zones. So in this case, these sample points were created based on these, the distribution of these zones. And again, we'll cover why and how that works in another webinar. The point of today is really to focus on the sampling and the logistics around this. So let's ignore zones completely for now, and just really focus on the the different points we have here. So if we toggle these off, you can then see your planned. Now these planned points here will have a depth, and they differ from the other planned points which won't have a depth there. We can also see what sample points you've mailed. If you've got any that you've sampled the previous day and stuck them in the mail, submitted them in the mobile app, they'll show up there as mailed. In this case, we don't have anything. You can also see unsubmitted samples there. So importantly, if you've forgotten to press send, or you've got a sample there that you're just waiting on a bit more information from, it'll show up here as mailed. And you can see these are unsubmitted. So you can see these are two unsubmitted samples just here. So we'll just toggle back for a second. You can see samples that are testing in progress. We don't have anything against this farm here, but the majority of samples on that previous farm that we showed are currently testing in progress. And so Milton can go through and have a look at the status and get an update when they do show up as complete. And so all completed samples again show up as completed just there, and I'll just get rid of those so we can have a look at those. So there are our completed samples. There's a few planned samples showing there as well. And importantly, this is where we get to showing the results. So any completed samples will display, you'll be able to display your results of those completed samples on the map here. So we'll go to total carbon, relatively innocuous. We have to select, and this version, there we go. Select the dates and the depth, and then we'll display those results across that farm there for you. So as soon as those results come back from APAL, in our case, in Milton's case, or one of the other testing labs that we partner with, they get displayed instantly on the screen here. And so in this case, you can export this or use it as part of your reporting to your clients if you're an agronomist. Alternatively, it just sits against, if you're a farmer or a gardener, it'll just sit against your farm or garden or account for use over time. And we are building in the future some more analytics features to show you how these numbers might change over time. For now, we're allowing people just to display it against their farm. then you can toggle through each of the layers there to understand how soil carbon, total carbon, percentage carbon in this case, correlates to the zones that were created or any of the other layers that we've got. We've got NDVI here importantly, and any of the other soil test results there as well. So we'll toggle nitrate, nitrogen on there, for example. So really that's the, this is the crux of today, was sort of highlighting how we get to this stage, this map here with all the soil tests geotagged and the results showing on that. Relatively simple using Farmlab. You don't have to bring data sets in and out. We do the integrations with the labs. We provide you with the mobile app, and all you have to do is physically go out and sample. And until we invent a flying drone or robot that can sample for you, we won't be able to replace that step. So that's about it for the run through. What we might do is open up to questions now if anyone has anything. So feel free to put something in the chat window or ask away.
So yeah, just for really quick, what it shows is there is the analytical perspective and there is the actual logistical doing perspective, and you can see that this we emphasized our software to focus on these two components, and so that's kind of works very well together. So to streamline the entire process, to do the testing itself, which is a physical thing to do, but also have a very good way to then analyze the data that you gain. So do we have any questions?
Yeah, hi, it's Andrea here.
Yep.
Hi. Can you just go back to the soil carbon results, one that you showed, that you had?
Absolutely. Let me just bring it up on the screen. There we go. And I'll just toggle back on carbon there for you.
So the under the little green lines, you've got the three numbers. That's an indication of soil carbon at those three depths. Is that how that works?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So we're going to include a little. One of the reasons this hasn't been publicly released as yet, although everyone here is welcome to use it. Just use staging.farmlab.com.au. What we will be showing is the exact depth, because you don't get it. You have to already know that this was taken at 0 to 10 and this was 10 to 30, rather than 0 to 30 and 30 to 60. So there is a bit of assumed knowledge here that we will fix. So you'll see you'll have a little toggle switch, and we'll put some more information there, some more details behind each of the depths there too.
And that's percentage carbon at that point, at that depth.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And does that? So I know that some of you are interested in using this as a benchmarking for potential credit generation, soil carbon credit generation. How does this line up with the approved methodology under the carbon farming, or under the emission reduction fund methodology?
Yeah, so under ERF, so what we focus on doing is being broad enough so we currently don't do, for example, pseudo-random stratified sampling, which is the sampling method mandated under ERF to sample each of the strata. Yeah. What we do provide is a tool. So if you're a carbon consultant that wants to go in and create carbon estimation areas, you can draw out your boundaries, consider what, you can do your planning, your upfront planning around the carbon estimation areas. The ability to import and export things gives most carbon consultants a bit of flexibility there, so they can take it out, they can create random stratified sampling points in another piece of software or their own GIS software, import that into Farmlab, have the points display on the screen, display in the mobile app, so that it's all there when it comes to being sampled. As opposed to then, the current state, which is most of that work is done separately. They give that to carbon carbon sampler, like like Milton, for example. Milton has then uploaded a shapefile to his GPS, go out, do the sampling, send the samples to APAL to be tested. The results will come back. He has to then import them. So there's a lot of importing and a lot of chopping and changing, whereas we're trying to just reduce that and systemize it through a single single platform.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Yes, so you've just simplified a number of steps in that whole process.
It's really focused on the logistics. And look, I will stress that we're not, we're not currently ERF compliant, so we don't recommend you do everything through this. Like I said, the pseudo-random stratified sampling process isn't what we use to give you sample points. It's the Latin hypercube sampling through the Soltech project. It's something we'll look at introducing, but we need to do a bit more work on just understanding the requirements.
That's good. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks, Andrea. Good question. Does anybody else have another question? Or?
Yeah, I might have a query. In this section where you put the different results for the different elements, from what I see on the screen, this is what was put by the lab. Can you or I or somebody on their own be able to place them?
Absolutely. So you can use this little button here, Ed, to upload historic samples. If they're geotagged, or if as long as they're either geotagged or you have paddock names that match exactly the names in Farmlab, then we can match any of those results to paddocks or points. If you give us the paddock names and not the lat longs, then we just pick a point in the center of that paddock, and we put the results against those. It's very flexible, so you can input the sampling date, and then basically you can input any result. We give you a format. The first row is the element itself. The second row is the measurement, if there is one for that element, and then row 3 onwards are your results. So we'll provide the template when we push out the new version. We'll try and make it as simple as possible. If you've got any questions, or if anyone listening has any questions, don't hesitate to shoot us an email. We can send you one of the send you a template in advance if you just send an email to info@farmlab.com.au. So it's very straightforward, and we can certainly do that.
So I guess lat long would be a big thing in this case. Having a lot.
It's important. Look, any data is better than none, and we always take the approach that the reason we started this was because without digitizing, if we don't digitize soil data, we can't use it. In the long term, most soil tests are kind of stuck in that top drawer of the farmers or the agronomist cabinet, and they're not referred back to. So even if you've got, and we've done this before for clients, non-geotagged soil samples, they can be relatively useful in helping assess and helping understand the variability across the farm. So, for example, what we would look at is, I'll bring this up. You might you might have taken a transect sample across this paddock here. The majority of this paddock is in this blue zone anyway. So that transect sample, if it was taken, if you're relatively confident on how it was taken, should be relatively representative of that blue zone just here. And so there is value in that data, even if it's not directly geotagged. We do one other thing, which is we have a little Easter egg secret ability for our users to do subsampling. If you have a sample bag with a barcode on it, you can scan that bag against multiple points. So for example, if I have APAL bag 001, I can scan that bag against this point, and this point, collect soil from each of these points and emulate a transect sample in the app. Now what that will do is record that barcode as a subsample against those 3 points. And we're just currently working on a nice little cool way to display that. We haven't quite worked it out yet. We're just, the designers and developers are just going about it now. So more data is better than no data at all, even if you don't have geotagged soil test results. Good question, Ed.
And I guess long term, it's really important that you can compare your data that you already gained. So yes, if you have the geotag, it's amazing. But if not, you can still do the comparison. So you can still upload that and compare the different samples over time.
That's right. That's right. And we'll be, like I said earlier, we'll be building some really interesting features to help users do that and help look at, you know, the changes in soil carbon or soil elements across paddocks, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, whatever's being tested for over, you know, over a series of years, which will be quite interesting. Great. Well, thanks. If there's any more questions, shout out. You can reach myself, Florian, at info@farmlab.com.au. Big thanks to Precision Pastures and Milton here for coming along and being interviewed today. Some great stuff there, Milton. We're going to run we'll be running another webinar next week to go into more detail on the zones, how to create the best zones for your operation. And I'll be sharing that in the chat very soon. So if you just bear with me one sec, we'll stick that in the chat window almost right now. I just have to find the link to it. Otherwise, thank you all for attending, and yeah, we'll be presenting here at the same time, same place next week.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sam. That was
Sam.
great. Really good.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
And there's next week's webinar link